Welcome back everybody to Charming Data, where we focus on data visualization in Python. So this week and in this tutorial, we are going to focus on how to connect our dashboard to a weather API. What we're going to create is a simple table of all the weather data that we receive, current weather data, from the WeatherStack website. Next week, click on the card above. I'm gonna create a video tutorial on how to connect financial data to a special bar chart or maybe a line plot, which is a bit more sophisticated. But since this is our first API video, we're just going to focus on how to pull the information from an API and put everything into a table inside our Dash app, which is all in Python. The first thing we want to do is learn about the documentation. I'm going to teach you in this video all about how to read the documentation of an API. So after this video, you can use the weather data, or you can maybe look into financial or news or Twitter API that you can create for yourself, because hopefully you'll be a lot more stronger with understanding how to read API documentation. So first thing you want to go is into this link below the video. Open that link up and you'll see this web page. I'm actually going to go here. And in this web page, you'll click on Start Using the API. And then you have 4 different categories, 4 different prices. I would just start with the free one for this tutorial. But you can see that other ones will give you more capabilities. Like this one, $49 per month, will give you a full 7-day forecast and allow you to make more requests per month. This one is limited to 1,000 requests per month, but that's fine for now. Click on Sign Up. You'll fill out all your information here. And once you click Submit and Sign Up, you will get, let me exit this. You will get this dashboard, right? And you will get your API access key. So once you have your API access key, this is very important because this is what you need to actually request information from the API. The second thing you can do after you get to this web page is click on API usage, and this will open this, and you'll see that I used it for 769 times. I requested the API information 769 times, which is 77% of what I'm allowed for this month. Let me refresh. Yeah, 77%. And it gives you a breakdown by day. I think I used it a little bit more, but anyway. So this is also good information to know, so you don't use it too much, because after 1,000, you won't be able to use it anymore unless you upgrade to a paid account. And lastly, if you go back to this link and you click on 3-step guide, it will open this tool at this website web page. And this web page is probably the most important documentation on how to get started. So this is different requests you can make. You can make current requests or historical weather data. You can have time series or forecast. Pay attention to forecast, because this is going to be one of our challenges at the very end. So for current, which we're going to do right now, because right now we're going to focus on current information and current observation time in New York, what we're going to do is, I don't know why it's New York, it probably recognizes I'm in New York, so it put this automatically, but if you click on this, like that, it will open what you need. So this is actually the link that you need, and you see how it automatically put in my access key. So this is actually what you need to create your app and to connect it to the API. And this is information that we get. So we're going to have to do 2 things inside the code below the video that you should also open so you can follow along. We're going to have to understand, or we're going to learn how to use the Dash app to actually make this request, because this is on its own website. This is not our Dash app, so we have to make this clickable inside the Dash app, and then filter the data so we get exactly what we want into our web page or web app that we created. And this is what we're going to learn in the next 5 minutes. All right, so open this code below, and let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to import all the libraries. Dash is the most important one. This is a framework that allows you to create data visualization all in Python. And this is a version you want to install, or maybe a similar version. Start your app like this. create these list of categories that we'll go into later. And then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to create the function update weather. You can call it whatever you want, but we're going to call this function to actually request the API information. So here you actually see inside the function, the first thing we're doing is we're going to request the information from our weatherstack.com API. So look, this is exactly what we need. This is the link that we have to put in there in order to make the request work. This is exactly this. The only difference is I think this doesn't have HTTP, so just make sure to add HTTP :/ before everything here, and make sure there's a %20 because New York is separated. And here you have your key. All right. So this is exactly what the documentation told us. We have to put this inside our request.get. And then it creates JSON data, JSON information. So you just pull that weather request .json method. You create that object, and then you put this JSON data into a pandas data frame. And then you print. So I already printed this out for you. Let's see what the columns are and what the rows are. So when you print it out, you'll see the columns are request, location, and current. There's 3 columns. And this is exactly what we see here. There's request right here, then there's a big dictionary, and then there's location, another dictionary, and then there's current. So there's 3 columns, and inside the columns we have several rows. The first 20 rows are these: type, query, language, all the way to we are going to use where is it? It's not. I think it's local time. Anyway, these are the first 20. So these are the rows. Type. The rows are actually the keys of the dictionaries inside. So the key here is type, that's one row. The key here is query, that's another row. We're going to go into the current column, and the key is going to be observation time. So this is going to be another row. So this is these. Now you know how the pandas data frame looks like, the rows and the columns, and the values of these keys right here. 443. City is the value of key type. These are going to be the values underneath the rows. Underneath each column, these are going to be the values. So what do we want? We want, let's do this again. We want the current column, and we want the observation time row. We want the temperature row. We want the wind speed row. Whereas temperature row, and we don't want this, we don't want this, and we want the wind speed row right here, and a few more. So this is why I built the categories list, because this is what we're going to need to access. All right. Okay. So now the only thing we need to do is actually return the table with the filter data information inside the table. All right. Here I'm going to, this is a table, and here I'm going to just put the class name. I'm going to put table weather because I want the table to have the borders, the black borders around it right here, these black borders. So to do that, I put the class name table weather. Just make sure for this to work for you, make sure to go into the GitHub, go and create your assets folder. You see right here, and inside the assets folder, download the styling.sss and just put that in there, the CSS form, because these are the classes that I created that allows you to see it as a nice table. What was this? Okay. So the table is going to have this class, and then it's going to have children, and the children is going to be rows. TR means table row, and TD refers to the cell. So we're going to create a for loop, and inside the loop, each loop is going to create one row and one cell. So let's see what this loop is creating. It's going to say for name and data for both of these inside the zip. There's 2 arguments. So the first argument, categories, refers to the name. Right? So the name refers to the categories. The first loop of the categories is going to be observation time. The second one is going to be temperature. And we're going to put it inside this cell. TD, the children is going to be name. So the first name is going to be observation time, and the second name is going to be temperature, and that is why here you see observation time, and the second one is going to be temperature. Now it's connected to something, and this something is the string of data. What is data? Data is inside the for loop again. data is the second argument here inside the zip, which is this, which is, remember our data frame, it had a current column, which we have to access, and it had the list of categories. And the list of categories is right here. Okay, so the first one is going to be observation time. It's going to refer to observation time, and then it's going to refer to the second and the third, right? So let's see what we have here. Let me try and run the app again. Let me try and rerun it. So now you see that we have, let's make this bigger so you actually see it. Now you see that we have the current column, there's request column, the column in between there's location, and then there's a current column, and we want to look into the request, sorry, not the request, where is it? Oh, here we go. Observation time, right, which is 4:49, temperature, which is 5, and so on and so on. So let's look, we just refreshed it, 4:49 and temperature 5, and so on and so on and so on. So each one of these, each row is actually inside the for loop. Okay, now this is a bit of a misleading because I'm returning here something, but I didn't activate this yet. Nothing activated the function. This, if you just have this inside your web app, this is not enough. This does not create the web page. In order to create the web page, we actually need the app layout, and you need to create the callback decorator to call the information and activate the function. So this is what we're doing below. Inside the app layout, we're going to have two sections. We're going to have the interval section, and we're going to have the div. Interval is actually an invisible section. Click on the card above if you want to learn more about the interval. This is a video that I created last week that talks in depth about what the interval does, but in essence, what it's doing here, I'm going to use interval to tell the app to update every couple of intervals, every couple of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 seconds, whatever I want. So here I'm saying update every 300 times 1000 milliseconds, which means update every 5 minutes for a maximum updates of 100 times. So don't update after more than 100 times. But this is invisible, so you can't see this on the web page. The only thing you're going to see on the web page is this, is the children update weather, is this function, right? Update weather, that's going to return all this. But again, this is only the layout. Nothing activated the function yet. Remember, we need to activate the function. This is not activated yet. This is just a placeholder. Once the function is activated, this is where the function is going to go. Or the information of the function, the return. So to activate it, we need a callback decorator inside this beautiful Dash framework. This is kind of where all the magic happens. So here we're going to say that the input is going to be my interval. This is going to be the ID, my interval. And we're going to say end interval. So take the component value, which is going to be the number of intervals. And it's going to start from 0 and then 1. And use that to output, or based on that information, output into the weather ID, into here, output its children, whatever the children data is. So in this case, every n, we have to create this function in order to activate the callback. We're going to say the update weather div function, that's why I called it, every n, which refers to n intervals, 0, 1, 2, every 5 minutes, right? This is 5 minutes. Every n, return the update weather function. So this is actually where we're activating it, and we're activating it, and it's going to return the data or the information into the children of the weather. So it's going to return everything here, which is inside our app layout. So this is actually returning everything, all the data inside our web page, because the function update weather we already built above here. So all this is the update weather function. And we already know that it's returning a for loop after it requests the data right here. It's returning a for loop of these categories, the string, and the category data information with this for loop. And that is how we create this. So as you can recall, we probably started at 4:30 something observation time, and it's all the way up to 4:49. I just want to make sure, take note of the fact that sometimes I've encountered that the weather app like 2 or 3 times has not worked. So it's not necessarily your app that doesn't work. Sometimes if you want to check if there's something wrong with your app, if you're getting an error, just go into here and try and load it with your new key. And if it loads, it means the app works, or at least the API works. And so your app, if it has an error, something is wrong with your app because this is working. If this is not working, you just have to wait. I wrote them, I waited, and then they wrote me back and they fixed it. So as long as this works when you have your on the web browser, then your app should work unless you have an error. If you get an error on your app, there is an error section here that talks all about the mistakes. So just go into the documentation, click on that, and you'll see all the different types of errors that you can get with the code and then the type. So sometimes you'll try and download something or try and activate the API. It might give you an error. So use this to understand what the error refers to and how to fix it. Yes. Great. So I hope you enjoyed. Before we go into the challenges and the practice that I prepared for you, make sure to subscribe below because next week we're going to develop a more sophisticated Dash app that connects financial data into your line chart or bar chart, whatever we want to create. And just make sure to hit the like button. All right. So I prepared these 3 challenges for you. I would highly recommend you practice these challenges at home and try to work on them before you look at the answers. The answer code is in the comment section, the first comment below. I put the links with the codes inside my GitHub, so then you can see the answers. But I would really recommend you try and do this before, because even if you fail, you'll be learning all about how to try and code your app and code your API, which helps you remember how to do things and ultimately learn. So the first challenge, the easy challenge, is going to be update your web app every 5 seconds and stop updating after 3 intervals. What do we mean? So this is what we mean. We are creating a Dash app that is going to update every 5 seconds. You're going to see here updating here. Update the first time. So it updated. It's going to update another time. And it's going to update once more, and after 3 times it's going to stop. So there you go. You don't see any difference here because the weather app only updates every 5 minutes, so this is not going to change. But now you know, since it's not updating anymore and it's been 3 or 5 seconds, that it's stopped. So so this is what you want to accomplish. Again, try this on your own. If you can't figure out how to do this, just go into the GitHub below with the code solution. So the second challenge, the medium challenge. Update your app with city of New Delhi instead of New York and show only temperature and observation time. So let's see how this looks like. Okay, so this is what we get. We get observation time, we get 5 p.m. The temperature is 26, and this is actually New Delhi. How do we know that this is New Delhi? Because if we go here and let's put New Delhi here, we'll see that the current temperature is observation time 5 p.m. and the current temperature is 26. 5 p.m. So we know this worked. All right, so try and create this on your own. Obviously, the time and temperature will be different according to when you do this. Last challenge, the hard one. This is a bit difficult because you need to know how to play around with dictionaries and how to get dictionary keys. But here you want to change your app to show yesterday's forecast. I'm putting yesterday's because with a free API account, you cannot see future forecasts. You can only see yesterday's forecast, but we'll only put min temperature and average time in New York. So this is how it's going to look like. All right, we see that this is, well, we don't see that this is New York, but I can assure you this is New York. The minimum temperature forecast for, let's actually go in there. What we have to do is change this to giving you a little bit of the answer here, but I want to show you that this is correct. Forecast. Oh, it's New Delhi. We got to change that to New York. And we want to see that it was 4 and 7. So forecast for yesterday is min temperature 4 and average temperature 7. All right. So the tricky part here is to know how to go into New York data, which you already probably know, and then how to only access the min temperature and average temperature. You don't want to access more, but you have to access the forecast column and pull those two keys and values, which is going to be a little bit different because of how the data is structured. Because here you have forecast and you have a dictionary, and inside the dictionary you have the minimum and min temperature and average temperature. So it's a bit more complicated. Try and do this on your own. Try to play around with the data and the filtering of the data frame. And if you're not successful, just look into the GitHub, and I have the answer below in the comment section. I hope it works for you. I hope you learned a lot, and keep trying. And don't forget to subscribe below and to hit the like button. Have a good day.